All right, what's happening, World Wrestling Live? We are here with another amazing wrestler, amazing wrestling mind in our country. Not only a great wrestler, but a great coach, mentor, lady. So, two-time WCWA national champ, junior world medalist, Olympic trial runner-up, two-time senior world team member, and go to USA membership. You'll see everything else. She's with us, Victoria Francis. Number one right now at 72, right, in the USA. So congratulations and welcome. Thank you so much for coming to the show. I apologize we're not live like normal. I guess it's something I got to get used to doing it this way. It's been fun going live, but I got to imagine when I get out and about, I'm going to have to start doing it like this anyway. Right. Welcome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and thank you for the invite. Happy to be here.
Yeah, for sure. I just I created this little platform and it has grown, and it was meant to just I felt like only somebody had a voice and not everyone. So
right.
When I created the platform, I wanted to talk to anyone in wrestling. I didn't care if you're an 8-year-old kid, a woman, a man, an old guy, a coach, a parent. I just felt like people should really see what this sport does. And I started it, and now I'm on like show 300 since April 6th.
Dang. So doing work.
Yeah, I'm putting in work. Well, I know that you guys kind of got shut down this summer. Big things were happening. One year, actually this year was the Olympics, right?
Right.
So I know you've been putting in work, and I'm sure you have every minute of your life planned towards that. How did this pandemic affect that and your training regimen and how you're adjusted for 21?
Yeah, so I mean, like anybody, training definitely took a hit. I had to kind of figure out what training was going to look like during the pandemic. I was fortunate enough that me and my husband were able to build like a home gym, so I've been able to lift and do conditioning. I was able to get in contact with a family in the area who has a wrestling mat in their garage, and I've been wrestling with their daughter and a high school coach. And then as things have been opening up and finding clubs who are able to take me in and are open. So it's definitely just been a lot of reaching out and networking and figuring that out. But also on the other side of things is just being flexible and just having that open mindset of like, all right, everything's not going to be perfect. We're so used to having just the perfect calculated training leading up to the Olympics, but it's like, it's not that. Like if I'm going to get on the mat and maybe it's a folk style boy and it's not a freestyle girl who's my size, it's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be perfect practice, but it's something, So it's definitely been different, but still figuring things out slowly but surely.
How cool is that? Like, hey, honey, Victoria Francis wants to use our mats. Can you come and do you mind? Oh my God! Like, I've just been trying. What have you been doing this summer, honey? How are you affected? Oh, Victoria Francis trained on my mats with me. Not too bad, huh? I mean, that's pretty good.
Right. Yeah. One of the daughters is kind of a fan of mine, so it was really cute at the beginning. But I think now they're just like, "Oh, Victoria's here. Okay,
Yeah. Can you teach me a single leg?"
Right.
That's awesome. Well, I know you made a transition last year into like the college coaching world, right?
Right.
You went over to Life U with the great Ashley Sword.
Yeah.
She's doing amazing things there. I had the pleasure to speak with her on my show once a long time ago. Well, I've only been doing it since April, but she was here.
Feels like a long time ago.
Feels like a long time ago, man. I don't think I've ever been in my house this long, but
right.
Man, talk about what that move, how did you decide to do that? What made NAIA the place for you and Life U and Georgia? Is that just an area you love, or was the attraction Ashley?
So it was mostly Ashley and Christian who attracted me there. So they had won the grant through the Women's Sports Foundation to hire an assistant coach. And at first I was like, I'm still really focused on training. I don't want to like take something else on right now. But as kind of time ticked away, I'm like, all right, yeah, I'll take it. I'll take it up. I'm interested. But Ashley and Christian have been my coaches for a couple years now. So I was already used to them like coaching me as an athlete, but it was really cool to step into the coaching world with them by my side as well. As far as life goes, like I said, I was attracted there because of Ashland Christian, but I love Life University. It's just a really neat campus, really cool school. And I wouldn't say it was NAIA that attracted me, just because I feel like women's wrestling and wrestling in general still, you know, I don't really believe in the divisions as much. You know, don't worry about a division when you're going to find a school. You know, it's, you know, based on the coaches, based on the school, you know, your team. Like, I feel like the division itself should rank pretty low when it comes to picking a school, you know, to coach or train at. But it was a really interesting experience this past year, being an assistant coach with them. Really got to kind of build a relationship even deeper with the team itself and all the girls. But yeah, it was fun. It was a fun trip for sure.
Yeah. So are you going to, are you still there? Are you staying there? Or with the adjustment of the Olympics, do you got to kind of take a step back? Now, is Ashley and Christian still going to be coaching you for the Olympics?
Yeah, Ashley and Christian, my coaches. I was actually just down there this past week training with them and hanging out and doing our thing. But this year I'll be kind of stepping down into like a volunteer coach position. You know, I'm still going to go down there and train, whatever. And when I'm there, I'm always happy to help and, you know, lend a hand to the ladies on the team. But I won't be in an official assistant coach this year. Yeah.
That had to be pretty cool for the girls to have you around, huh?
I think once again, they're used to it. Like, I'd already been kind of training in and out of there for a year. So like, I mean, of course they're excited a little bit. Vic's back, but you know, when I first started, I was like, I'm Coach Francis now, and it didn't catch at all. So, but that's okay.
Yeah, I mean, you know, even I was a kid once, and you see like one of your idols or mentors or heroes come around, and then to get to like, you know, I played basketball when I was younger, and I remember my dad taking me to this basketball camp, and Glenn Rice was there, this old basketball player for Miami, and I was like, and they're like, just do the layup drill. I'm like, how do I do a layup drill with? But I figured it out, and
right.
But I remember it's pretty cool. What does your road look like now? I know that obviously as an Olympic athlete, and I've talked to some other ladies and men that are on that same track, and you obviously have been given a kind of a fork in the road after like a big buffet dinner. Did you get back on it, or how does this change your training or your mindset?
So going, you know, just to clarify, like, definitely still going for 2021. No, not hitting the brakes at all. But it was a good, like, kind of reset time for me, just because it was like, all right, I'm going to take a couple weeks off the mat and just kind of relax for a second. And it really gave me a chance to realize how much pressure I was putting on myself leading into this past year, and just how unhealthy of a mindset I had. And it just really gave me a chance to reflect and reevaluate and re-strategize how this next year's going. And I feel so much lighter, like, in my mind. Just, I feel so much more excited about the year rather than stressed and worried and anxious. I'm more excited and happy to be going into this next year. We'll see how that goes once things start picking up and hype builds back up. But I'm trying to take it slowly, and but it's been a good adjustment. But I definitely did hit the buffet to start off the pandemic for sure. Definitely enjoyed life. But that was kind of just part of my reset, was just like realizing that I had developed a really unhealthy relationship with food in general, because I was trying to cut down to 68 in an unhealthy manner in general. So it kind of just gave me a chance to reset and kind of reevaluate how this next year is going to look like for weight cutting. You know, I don't want to even use the word weight cutting because it has such a negative sound to it, but you know, it's part of the sport. Weight management is, I guess, the better word, managing my weight. But yeah, I just have a better outlook, I think, going into this next year than I did this past year.
Oh, and that's awesome. And I get it, because as I told you, my son's just been lifting weights this summer. He's done some of those the virtual clinics come on and things like that, and he might do that. He might throw around his little 11-year-old brother a little bit. But last week I spoke to his club coach, and I was like, hey, I think he wants to at least go to these next tournaments coming up. He hasn't done anything all summer, but so as soon as I signed him up, he's like, oh, I got to get down to this, I got to get that. And he was making his rice, making his chicken, doing his food prep, oh, he's 14. He's going to be 15. But of course, every morning he weighs himself, and you hear like French words coming out of the bathroom, like,
oh no.
ah! I'm like, stop. Who cares?
Right.
How many times have you cut weight? He's like, a lot. I go, how many times have you missed it? He's like, none. I go, well, then you know what you're doing. Just relax.
Right. And trust your body. Like, that's kind of like how my mindset, like going into, like, I'm going to be competing at senior nationals. Like, I'm going 76. So it's like, why should I go 68 right now? Like, it's nothing's really on the line. I'm just going there to compete and have a good time. So weight for that doesn't really matter to me. You know, and I hope he finds peace with the scale, you know.
Yeah,
I feel like there's something else I've been working on is just like,
when does that mindset change? When does that mind, like, he's taller than me now, right? Which isn't saying much. I'm only like 5'7" or 5'8" or 5'9", whatever. But when does the mindset change that he believes that he's still that 12-year-old 126-pound kid, and he's worried that, well, if I wrestle 145 or if I wrestle 152, these kids are huge. And I'm like, hello, you're one of those huge kids now. That's how much you weigh.
Right.
But when does that mindset change?
Man, I don't know, because I've always been a big girl. Like, I came into 6th grade at 135 pounds. Like, I've always been large, so I've never thought of myself as small. And I think also part of it was, like, even growing up in middle school and high school, like, I didn't have to cut weight. My parents didn't make me cut weight. Coaches didn't really care because I was JV. So I never really had that, like, mindset of weight cut and I have to be small and I have to be at the lighter weight class, whatever. But man, I don't know how to say, like, think of that, but just, I mean, maybe take some pictures of him, like, next to somebody else who's his size and be like, see, this is what you look like. You are this tall and you have this much muscle and you are that, like, there's nothing negative about being that big or that small or that strong or this light. Like, it's just what your body is, and kind of have to accept it. I don't know the best way to do it, but I know everybody's, like, journey into that acceptance is probably a little different.
Yeah, I just tell them, look, give me all your chicken wings, give me all your French fries, I'll eat them, and happily, and you can go cut weight and be mad and miserable. I'll just eat your French fries. But that's cool. So what do you what's the lineup look like? Do you kind of have an idea of who you need to get through or who you need to compete against to kind of to make it to the Olympics this year? Is there some?
Yeah, I mean, so I'll be going 68 for Olympic trials come April, and probably the two people ahead of me right now ranked are Forrest Molinari and Tamara Mensah-Stock, which, you know, they're not pushovers by any means. So they're definitely tough matches. I lost to Forrest in December by pin, and then I think the last time I wrestled Tamara in a match was lost by tech. So I've definitely got some ground to make up, but once again, with this summer, you know, and be able to take a step back and reevaluate, like, me and my coaches have been able to add a few things into my training plan and my technique that I'm really excited to put to use, and I think will help me overcome those opponents.
That's awesome. And a question I asked Catherine was, and I think I asked a couple girls, but you and Catherine have really been right in the heat of things the last couple of, not you versus her, but you guys have been right there competing for the Olympic medal. Right now it's competition, right? But when it's all said and done, is it like, oh, the hell with her, I'm not going to go help her? Or now do you become, we're all one team and let's help whoever advances to get better and get the medal?
Right. I think everybody takes it a little differently. I think personally, I'm one of those who's just like, all right, like, we got to go get the job done, you know, whether I win or lose. Like, it's not me, you know. I still want USA to come home with medals, so I'm not going to be bitter for too long, at least. You know, I'll probably have my 24 hours of kicking and screaming.
Yeah,
but, you know,
for sure.
But I mean, like, the only thing I can think of, like, was I remember in 2016 when I lost to Adeline, like, I was still showing up to training camps. I had a back injury, not from trials, but it came after trials, before camp. And I was still trying to go. I wanted to be on the mat so bad to help. Like, it just made me so hungry to help, and I couldn't. But yeah, I think a lot of us are hungry to help and just bring medals one way or another, you know.
Yeah, that's awesome. Because I know watching the uh, was it what was the girl that was on? They did a flow on her last month. She won the gold medal. I think it was Catherine Shea's weight, but I watched her interview or whatever, and she was like, at first I was like, I don't want to go to the Olympics now, or I don't want to go help you. But then she took a step back and was like, yeah, I'll do it.
Oh, was it Helen?
Yeah, Helen.
Yeah. Okay.
Look
Yeah,
at
when she had to help
brain fart.
Kelsey.
Yeah,
Yeah, I remember hearing that in another interview.
I was
Yeah.
having a total mind fart. It's my gray hair. Sorry, Helen, if you're listening. Yeah, she at first she was like, no way, and her coach would be like, look, you're team members just because you lost.
Right.
Well, I know some things that have been really something that you speak about, and that you really feel highly about is a few different things, and we can start off. I know supplement safety in the sport is something you're really adamant about. Mental health in sports is something that's big, and then obviously the proportional coverage of women's wrestling. But let's start with supplemental safety in the sports. I know that's something that you're big on and you wanted to discuss.
Yeah. So for anybody who doesn't know, I was prohibited from competing and training for a year by USADA because I had failed a drug test, which we found out was because I had taken a supplement that had an illegal and prohibited substance in it, which was crazy to me because I felt like I was being careful. Any supplement I took, I made sure it wasn't on the ban list. I would check the ingredients, like, all right, yeah, it's good. Something still slipped through. So I always try to encourage people who are competing and have the chance to be drug tested, or anybody concerned about health in general. Make sure your supplements are NSF certified for sport, because that's kind of the best way to be sure that they're okay and they're not going to cause you any harm to your health or your career. And even taking a step back from that, like sometimes we're taking supplements we don't even need. After my issue with the sanction, like I threw away so many supplements because like this doesn't even matter to me. Like it might give me just a little edge, but like, is it worth risking my career on? Like, no. Like there's still some supplements that I take just because, like for instance, iron and vitamin D. Like I'm a little low on that naturally. It's kind of hard to pick up nutritionally that much of it. So I take those supplements, but they're NSF certified. And I just encourage so many people to be careful, especially like college girls who start going to those senior level tournaments, but they're not on a senior level team yet and haven't received that education yet about supplements. Like that's scary to me because it's like, if they do really well at a senior tournament and they get drug tested, like they could be gone, just because they didn't know. So I'm always trying to speak up about that and make sure people are aware of that danger in supplements.
Yeah, and I know I was I was reading some stories and some articles and stuff, and I'm glad you brought it up because I was not going to bring it up. I would never, hey, tell us about your experience. So
I'll talk about it.
It's good for you to bring it up. But I read an article where it was really tough on you mentally. It wasn't something that was easy for you to come back from, and you really had to really get your mind right again and get past it and talk about that because I think people think that athletes at your level are just always mindset ready, mentally ready, and nothing can phase them.
Absolutely. I mean, think about it. Like any picture you see of an athlete, it's usually after they've won or they're going into a match. Like they look tough, they look, ripped, they're sweaty. Like they look strong physically, but you can't really take a look in their brain. So that's why I'm always willing to talk about it. But like during my sanctions, so a lot of people understand that like when you're under a sanction for a failed drug test, you're banned from competition for however long. So mine was a year. But you're also banned from training. So I couldn't train with anybody with USA Wrestling card. I couldn't coach anybody with USA Wrestling card, and I couldn't participate in practices at USA Wrestling clubs or RTCs. So because of all that, I got kicked out of the Olympic Training Center where I was living, which was basically my team at the time. That was my friends. That's where I'd lived for a year. So that was really hard on me. And then at the same time, I moved to Maryland with my husband, where I didn't know anybody, And I felt very isolated. I wasn't around, my people. It can even like go into a wrestling club and just be around people like me. So I felt very isolated, and it hit me just really hard because I feel like, elite athletes put so much value into their athletic career. So when that was kind of like taken away from me, I was like, well, who am I? Like, what am I worth? Like, this is, crap. So I wasn't diagnosed with depression, but I guess I showed signs of depression during that time just because of everything happening. Thankfully, my husband's super supportive and was able to help me. I was able to find ways that I could see value in myself, just as a human being, because I'm important, and I deserve to feel good. But I mean, it was hard. Like, I think just one of the low points that really paints a picture is like one time I was having an anxiety attack in my backyard and I was crying so loud and I just collapsed and my husband had to carry me in. Like, that was just like a low point. And I don't share it very often, but I think it is important to share because it's just like, you might see a picture of me on the mat and see me as a strong athlete, but like I have low mental points where I literally have to be carried into the house, So, yeah, it was definitely a difficult time, but I'm trying to be more open about sharing those kind of things just so nobody else feels alone if they're feeling that way too.
Yeah, and what would you say, how much did your wrestling mindset was able to battle that mindset you were going through to be able to get through this situation? I mean, obviously it's hard to say without wrestling, could you have done it, but you wouldn't have been there because it happened. So it's a hard question to ask, but,
right.
But how mentally were you able to get back on the mat, per se, and get yourself together?
Yeah, I think, wrestling also like played as a motivator. It's like, well, I'm definitely not done wrestling. Like, it's funny because when my sanctions started, like people were like, oh, you had a good career, like good job. I guess you can retire. And I'm like, I'm not retiring. Like, I will end my career when I want to. I'm not letting someone else end it for me. So just having that like stubbornness that wrestling had, I was like, had given me, like, I was just like, no, I'm not going to lose just because it's the easier thing to do. Like, I'm going to win this situation. And then just like throughout it, I just remember like seeing, people would be going on a tour or, be going overseas. And I was like, I cannot wait to go compete. I cannot wait to go train. I cannot wait to feel so sore and so tired, again, like I can't wait to get, thrown on my head. Like, I was just so excited. And when I remember coming back and, starting to train again and be with the team again, I was just so excited and so grateful to be back. So I think just having that kind of mindset of, excitement, but stubbornness kind of kept me through it.
That's all. Yeah, I was going to ask that feeling when they allowed you back to the USOC and you were able to walk back in the door and see your friends and see your coaches.
Yeah, no, I remember that first camp back. Like, I was just so excited, so excited. I remember after World Championships, like I felt like that was just kind of like the final, just like I did it. Like, finishing at World Championships for, third place, I got fifth, but still it's just like I overcame the situation and I made it as far as I could, within this year cycle. And I remember just being in tears afterwards. And I felt like some people, when they saw me, they were like, oh, she's upset she lost. I'm like, no, I'm so happy to be here, to be competing, to know what I overcame just to get back here to this moment. So
you feel like the pressure you used to have is gone now? Like you're back doing it for fun and doing it for the love, or do you still feel some of that added pressure?
I don't feel it nearly as much as this kind of like the year leading into the 2019 World Championships. But I still, like, every once in a while, like if I'm ever like, oh, I'm tired, like I don't want to go lift, or oh, I don't want to go to practice, like, no, I do want to go to practice. I do want to go lift. Like, remember a couple years ago? Yeah, that's let's go practice. Like, so every once in a while, it's just that little motivation. Like, remember, all right, let's be grateful about this.
That's awesome. So, last night was a huge step for wrestling. We saw the Wrestling Underground, and that was I loved so much about it that it took your sport and it kind of obviously put it on the map a little bit. And then it had what's his name, Cale Shonen or whatever his name is, and he is crazy and wild and loves everything wrestling. I I want to see women on that level. I want to see women in that cage wrestling. I want to see
Right.
them doing that too. And I know we're on an uptick. I know we're going in the right direction. A lot of states are tumbling down now, but how awesome will it be? And how close are we to seeing that where you're on an even playing field?
Man, it's hard to say how close we are to an even playing field, but it's just, I don't think people realize quite how far we are away from it. Like you said, a lot of good things are happening right now. You know, a lot of states are sanctioning women's wrestling. That's the NCAA emerging sport. We have like 85 college programs now, like definitely growing. But there's every once in a while where we have one of these situations where it's like, what do you mean you have I think it was 6 men's matches on the card, like, but no women? Like, how did this happen? And I understand there's a lot of things going on behind the scenes. Like, they probably did contact a few people, which I know they did. They contacted a couple, but it's also like, all right, but how many guys did you contact? Like, we keep getting thrown these like reasons why things didn't happen, but it's just like, but you made the men's matches happen. You made those happen. So why couldn't you make one women's match? Like, so it's hard to say how far we are, but like in my mind, like I just want to, you know, anybody who's like, oh, women's wrestling, yeah, it's growing, but you know, be patient, be patient. I was like, eventually we're going to have equal, I don't want to say equal coverage, proportional coverage. You know, if there's 20 women in this wrestling tournament and there's 100 guys, then, you know, 1/5 of the coverage should be about women. You know, 1/5 of the promotions should be about women. But anyways, eventually we're going to have proportional coverage. Eventually, like that is the goal. And I think nobody's going to doubt that that's eventually going to happen. So why not just happen now? Why not? Like when people tell me to be patient, I'm like, why not now? Why can't it be proportional now? I know there's going to be resistance from fans and just the audience, but it's like, all right, well, they need to catch up. Like it's 2020 now.
I agree. It is 2020 and we've come a long way. You know, from what I'm being told by men and women, is that the next wave of ladies coming up that are in high school right now are just badasses. And there's a wave coming through where we're going to see like next level stuff.
For sure.
And why not reach out to some of these young ladies that are on the prep level and the public school level and the private school level and get them on some shows like this where people start to know their names. So by the time they get to college, then now they, and they get to these tournaments. So it's not so much like we as a public know Victoria Francis, Catherine Shea. We know the names, we know the people. We know the Julia Slaughter or whatever, right? Because you guys have been on the Olympic stage, on the world stage, we've seen that. But we didn't know who you were 5 years, 6 years, 7 years ago or whatever, right? When you were coming up. So these young girls that are killing it right now, like I've heard that there's some of them going to be on Who's Number One, which is awesome. But on a stage like last night, and what goes into that? Like, can you have a prep school girl come in there? Is there insurance?
That I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not entirely sure what that all looks like. And like, I'm not sure what goes into like being an amateur status if you're going to go to an NCAA school or NAIA. Like, I don't know what all that looks like by any means. But you're right. Like, some of these guys growing up, like, we already know their name. And like, I'm going to be honest, I'm really naive about who's in wrestling. Like, I'm really bad about keeping up and knowing who medaled where and whatever. But like, I even know who Mark Hall was when he was coming out of high school. Like, I knew him, and he's done great things in college. He's done great things internationally. But it's like, I knew who he was coming out of high school. So we need to know more of these girls names coming out of high school, because that builds up their platform. And then when they make the senior level, then you can hype up these matches and have, you know, a lot of excitement built up for them being on a card. You know, you don't have to do the work as the card comes. It's the years leading up. Like, it's got to be the long game of things. One person I kind of think of that's kind of hitting that is Macy Kilty. Like, I feel like a lot of people are knowing her name, and it's like her name's been thrown out there, you know, regularly. You know, Amit Lore, like her name's kind of popping up a little bit, and she got on the Who's Number One and off for injury. But I agree that there needs to be that build up, you know, leading up to, you know, years of build up to build up that name, you know.
What I see in my short period in sport. Now, I was saying something on the club level. I think the big push is for sanctioning, because then women's sport can be in the schools and now it can grow. Because at the club level, I think, at least at the ones that I've been to, you're just another wrestler. It's come along. I mean, it's doing well there. But my question is, like, when I hear about Fargo, or I hear about Super 32, or I hear about those big tournaments, when the articles are written afterwards, when the blogs are posted afterwards, when the videos are released afterwards, it's only of the boys' finals. Mm-hmm. So if they started to release the girls' finals, show the Marines, giving them their stop signs, and doing that as well, and those little blogs getting put out and those little articles put out, we would begin to know more awesome girls. Absolutely. I think.
Absolutely, I agree. And then to add to that, like, not only are, you know, the fans getting to know them, but those up and coming wrestlers get to know them. You know, when I was growing up, I didn't see, and that was also, again, my fault for not being very educated in the sport, but like, there wasn't a lot of showing of those strong women. So I never really had like a really good role model in my mind. But when those girls can see, oh, wow, that BA wrestler just placed at Fargo, like, I want to be like her. Like, they have that image. Now you're developing this younger athlete, and she is going to exceed her role model's achievements. You know, and then we're going to continue to see that growth in women's wrestling accolade-wise. So I think having that proportional coverage does not just good for the wrestlers now, but the up-and-coming little girls that want to achieve those things as well. But I agree, like, definitely not seeing proportional coverage. Like, I've done stats on a couple events where it's like, all right, there was 100 girls and there was 200 boys, but there was only one, you know, post about girls and there was 50 about boys. Like, doesn't quite add up. You know, that's just numbers I'm throwing out, but to show, like, it's not proportional yet, but that's what I want to see, is proportional coverage.
Yeah, like, I had the honor to have, I had Alex Lyles on once, and I've had Emma Bruntiel on, and both of them awesome girls, right? And both doing big things. Alex just got out of Army boot camp, and she's going to the WCAP, and she won 4 straight. She's only 2 women that went undefeated in Texas. The other one is coming on later on today on my show. Nice. And Emma Bruntiel is, I mean, she's just amazing, and what she's doing with you guys that wrestle like a girl, and how she wrestles and all the stuff she's doing. And then I had no idea. I start researching them. They both won several Fargos. They both competed against each other at Fargo. They were just studs, and maybe it's only because I've been in the sport a little bit, so I didn't hear about them. But I wonder if they were, other than Texas and her hometown, who else knew about them, right? Except the people in the sport. Like, I know that if you talk to men's or women's coaches who frequent these tournaments, they know who the people in the sport know who they are, right? But to get more people to the sport, to be able for Wrestle Like a Girl, or How She's Wrestled, or to have the leverage to say, hey, pay us, we have to show ourselves, right? We have to be out there and compete, but we are competing. So in order for them to know about us, we need the cameras on us. We need the interview, microphone in our face. You need to get to know who we are. And I mean, not everybody's doing that, right? Right.
I think like a couple organizations are, or they're trying their best. Like USA Wrestling, like, they're not like a news organization, but they have their news section, and I feel like they're doing a good job of covering us. Track wrestling, I feel like, is doing a better job proportionally. They're definitely behind us right now, trying to help, you know, grow us and get our faces out there. Same with the open mat. But there are, you know, organizations where, you know, they claim they're not journalists. You know, they're like, we're not journalists, you know, we're a private company, whatever. So they feel like they don't have to give that fair coverage. They think they just have to do whatever's in their best interest. But then on the flip side, say, well, we're trying to help wrestling. We're trying to help wrestling. But it's like, not sure you are. But if you're a journalist, you know, you have a responsibility to share the stories that are happening in the community. And when I say community, I mean the wrestling community in this instance. But when they say they're not journalists, they're trying to shed that responsibility. And it's very frustrating. It's like, but you kind of are a journalist. Like, you have a news section on your website. Like, you are. So it definitely is frustrating to have these news organizations that aren't giving the equal coverage. But I feel like just fans putting on the pressure and just, voting with their wallet. If an organization isn't giving the coverage that you think is fair, all right, well, then you need to stop giving them your service and start paying your service to people who are doing a good job. So never underestimate your power as an individual, especially as a consumer.
But and also proportionately for wrestling, which we talked about why I started this show. And, I'm just some dude at my house, right? But not just to women proportionally, but to wrestling proportionally. You're not, why aren't we talking about some of these really good stories that people are going through right now and getting to where they're getting at? Or why aren't we talking about NAIA, Division I, Division II, WCWA, just wrestling as a whole? Why isn't it showcased? Why are we just showcasing the best of the best? And I'm sure in their defense, the best of the best is what people will subscribe to. The best of the best is where the money will be. And that's fine. So create some free coverage. You're making plenty of money on the subscriptions. Throw out free stuff where people can see.
Yeah, this is something I've been trying to wrap my head around. It's like, why aren't we as popular? Because wrestling is pretty cool. People get thrown, people get ran off the mat. It's so cool. But I understand that wrestling, its rules itself can be complicated. If you're thinking basketball, it's all right, you put the basketball in the hoop, or you swim side to side, you're done. All right, whatever. Wrestling, there's those, all those rules. But I feel very interesting. UWW has been doing a really good job of growing the promotion of wrestling, and have been doing really good with graphics and videos and those highlight reels. I'm really excited what UWW is doing to promote wrestling even outside of our community, because I feel within our community, everybody's yes, wrestling, let's go. But once you get outside of wrestling, people are okay, cool, wrestling.
Well, and that's where the growth happens, right? I mean, the growth can't happen if outside of wrestling people aren't being shown it, right?
Right. So I think it's just important for us to kind of, I don't want to say dumb it down, but just show what's easy to understand. It's all right, someone's getting thrown, someone's getting doubled. All right, I can tell that's dominant and that's really cool. If I'm watching hand fighting for 6 minutes, I don't understand what's going on. As a hand fighter, if I watch hand fighting for 6 minutes, I'm having a good time. But someone who doesn't wrestle wouldn't understand that. So just being able to showcase our highlights and make it easy to enjoy the sport, I think will make it better. But it's, once again, it's not something I've entirely wrapped my head around, because I've been so focused within our community, growing women's wrestling. I haven't even gone to the next level, how do I grow wrestling outside of our community? So I don't have too much insight on it, but it is something I'm, trying to think about.
And also, I get it. MMA has grown to a level where it's insane. People want to do it, right? So all these boys and girls out there that are looking at these MMA guys and going, wow, I want to be a fighter, and they walk into an MMA gym. Well, guess what? Most of them all started out on a wrestling mat, and wrestling is the foundation of jiu-jitsu, of everything, right? So you see, they need to know, hey, you don't have to be in a jiu-jitsu room right now. Go to a wrestling room, do that, get through that, get to your college, and then you can get an MMA. But this is the foundation of all that. But we're sending them on different avenues. And look, jiu-jitsu is great, and jiu-jitsu is amazing. And this is not a knock against jiu-jitsu, but it's not a sport that's going to get you to college. It's not a sport that's going to get you a degree. It's a sport that you can take up on the side, that you can add to your skill set. But wrestling is going to do that for you. Not only is it going to do that for you, but it's also going to give you the foundation to, if that is your goal, to be an MMA fighter,
right.
You can do it through this sport. And I don't think that's showcased enough either, for men or women.
Yeah, I agree with that. That'd be an interesting thing to try to give insight to those younger kids is just like, this is what they're doing. Like, this is what their training looks like. Like, yeah, it's cool to watch like them do boxing and do kicking, but it's like the foundations are never too exciting, you know? So sometimes that might be hard to showcase, but you need to find a way to, you know, give light to that for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, all the champions in the sport almost started as wrestlers.
Right.
All right, well, that was an awesome conversation. I enjoyed it. It's good. I learned too. I learned, guys, so it's awesome. Well, are you ready for the 10 questions?
Yes. Okay. Right.
Is there anything else you wanted to shout out?
Not at the moment. Not that I can think of. We hit kind of my big 3 topics, so
Right.
I'm
Awesome.
satisfied.
All right, so I know you're from Illinois,
Yeah.
home of some really good food. So Chicago dog or Coney dog?
I don't know what the difference are. I don't know the difference between the two. I definitely know I've had like each, but like it's been so long, I don't even know the difference.
All right, well, the Chicago dog has like the pepperoncinis on it.
Okay.
No ketchup, mustard.
Okay.
What's
the Coney dog got?
Just a regular hot dog with whatever you want to put on it.
Oh, then Chicago. Yeah, for sure. I'm all for toppings. Yeah.
I like it. All right, the Poland Open or the Canada Open?
I'm going to say Canada. Poland was just a rough trip in general in my mind. Canada was fun.
Yeah, you know, I asked that question to Catherine too, and she's like, "I got to go with Canada. That's a lot of fun up there."
Yeah.
Chicago style pizza or New York style pizza?
I'm going to go Chicago. And I just had a conversation with someone about this the other day. They're like, ugh, like I like thin crust. I don't like the Chicago. I'm like, the more pizza, the better. Like, we've already gone this big. Let's go this way. Down for it.
Illuminati's. The Kipling Lady Open or the Ukrainian Memorial?
Ooh. I'm going to say clip-on, just because I've done that trip more times. I've enjoyed it more. Like, I've only had one trip to Ukraine, and it was okay, but averaging out clip-on was better. Yeah.
The world-famous Italian beef or the combo from Portillo's?
Oh, I don't think I've had either. I'm going to go Italian because I like Italian in general. It's usually a good move. I'm glad half these questions are about food. Like, this is stuff I know about.
The Grand Prix of Spain or the Austria Ladies Open?
Ooh. I'm gonna go Grand Prix. Austria was pretty, but when I was there, I was only there for like the tournament. Like, I don't think I got to do much exploring. Spain, I've done some exploring in. So
awesome. How cool is that? Like, want to go travel the world? Wrestle.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Garrett's Popcorn is big in Chicago. Are you familiar with it?
No. So I've only been to Chicago a couple times. Like, I'm from Southern Illinois.
So
I'm more St. Louis. Like, I'm only an hour from St. Louis.
You know the Chicago popcorn mix, the caramel and cheese?
Oh, yeah. I mess with that.
All right. You like that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
All right. So there's your answer. All right. Final X or Pan Am's?
Ooh. Final X was pretty cool. Like, I'm going to have to go Final X. That was a really neat experience.
Water ice or gooey butter cake?
Gooey butter cake, for sure.
Oh, you know what that is.
Oh, yeah. My husband has a family member who makes it for us every time we come home, and it's gone in like a day. Like, they do a whole sheet.
I got one she knows about.
Oh, that stuff is so good. Yes.
Oh, the SFU clan or Dave Schultz?
I'm going to go Dave Schultz, just because that one's at the OTC, and I know that place pretty well, and I always have a good time there. So I'm going to go Dave Schultz.
Awesome. Well, again, I'm sorry we weren't live, but I'll get it posted up. I got to pick kids up from school, but when I get back, I'll get it posted up there. And
Awesome.
This was an absolute honor. Thank you so much for coming on. I really do appreciate it.
Yeah.
I love this giving back and getting to hear all your voices and your stories, and it's pretty damn cool. I feel like I'm so lucky. I never imagined I'd be 300 into this thing. I just thought I was going to talk
It's
to
incredible.
people. That was it. But it's been awesome. So it's an honor. Keep kicking life's ass. I tell everybody that. Keep doing your thing. And if you have any friends that you think would like to come on, please invite them on the show. I've got a couple slots open Thursday and Friday. So let me know and we can get them on.
Sounds good.
Let's get the young studs on too. Anybody.
Yeah. No, I might send a couple life women your way.
Awesome. Hey, they're
Got
all
some
welcome.
studs down there. Yeah.
Great. Alexis Lyles over at, not Alexis Lyles, Aralis Valles over at Grandview. I hit her up. She's like, I've sent you all my girls already. They've all been on your show. So I'm like, all right, I got to move on to the next school. All right, well, you take it easy.
Yeah, you as well.
It's an honor. I'll definitely be rooting for you. I hope you go kick some ass.
Will do. Awesome.